This bull market isn't done. People are going, oh, $4,500 an ounce. Gold is really expensive. I missed it. No, you didn't. This is the beginning. This is evidence that is like 100% irrefutable. This is it. LBMA is nothing but a gold price suppression scheme. It's going into triple digits, and I've been saying that for years. And this is proof that it should be there. And this is actually the reason for the structural deficit. When it doesn't pay to mine this stuff, you have not enough coming to market to fill demand. And that's what we've had for many years now in a row, a huge structural deficit.
Mike Maloney exposes 50 years of gold and silver price suppression, revealing proof the LBMA and COMEX have held metals artificially low while structural deficits explode. He warns today's $4,500 gold is only the beginning as the U.S. moves toward massive money printing, currency devaluation, and a potential CBDC trap. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Fine Metals for more updates.
During London hours is down. It's a few cents, 23 cents. Silver would be 23 cents an ounce.
Wow.
So that's unbelievable. It'd be about almost $400 an ounce outside of London hours. And then, of course,
we're at that price where we say that it's going into triple digits. And I've been saying that for years. And this is proof that it should be there. And this is actually the reason for the structural deficit. When it doesn't pay to mine this stuff, you have not enough coming to market to fill demand. And that's what we've had for many years now in a row, a huge structural deficit.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing people might say to kind of argue against this point, just broadly speaking, in terms of gold and silver, is that, well, there's a flow of metals from west to east. And so if there's selling pressure in the west and buying pressure in the east, that could cause the difference in price here. And that's true in a small way. There's no way it could be this extreme for 50 years. There's no way. So
exactly. And the other thing is that the LBMA is that blue line incorporates COMEX trading hours. And the LBMA is only open, they're running like 5 hours earlier in the day. So there's only a couple hours overlap in that PM fix. So the COMEX is also, it's a fractional reserve scheme, whether it's a price suppression. Well, it is a price suppression scheme. People from JP Morgan went to jail over it. For years, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee has been screaming foul, screaming that there is a manipulation going on, and they've been laughed at and called conspiracy theorists. And then somebody goes to jail for it. And people still call them conspiracy theorists. And then another person goes to jail for it. And so what does it take to wake everybody up that this is price suppression? And it's happening in both gold and silver. And it's the LBMA that is one of the main culprits. And, if you look back over the last decade, you'll find that there are banks that pulled out of the price fix. The price fix is just a group of banks that decide gold and silver they look at market prices and they decide this is the fix. And then a lot of dealers are selling off of that fix all day long. And then at the close of the day, there's a PM fix. And this is the proof that they are the key culprits here.
Exactly. So getting back to our 5 predictions, will the London precious metals market be exposed? I mean, depending on your standard, they already have been. It's sort of hiding in plain sight.
Well,
who knows if it'll take another form.
They were running out of gold a while back, and then gold flows started happening from the United States. Donald Trump was threatening to audit Fort Knox. This was during a rush, and I believe COMEX stocks were getting low again because the COMEX is another fractional reserve scheme. 300 people dancing around the room and only one chair to sit in. The actual ounce of gold that exists on the exchange for delivery. And so they've changed those ratios. And whenever they're doing this, they're getting ready for something that might happened. So they're getting ready for a potential event. I want to point out that this chart is from July. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the coming few months here. So,
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to keep following this.
yeah, so there was some gold inflows into the United States in July. So show us that next chart.
Yeah, the next one is the COMEX Depository Warehouse Gold Stocks. So basically, this is a chart we put in the book, Mike. This is in chapter 9, which was called Somebody Big is Getting Ready for Something Really Big.
Yeah. Now,
and
this goes back a lot further.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Okay. So they basically saved the COMEX from a force majeure, and they stopped gold from like just leaping to $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 an ounce by having all these gold inflows from the Swiss refineries and from London and even from China, which had never happened before. So it's like the whole world was coming to the rescue of the COMEX to keep the fraud of their fractional reserve scheme from being exposed, which would have caused gold to just suddenly leap into the stratosphere. And what was gold's price back in 2019 and early 2020? Was it still below 2,000?
Yeah, you can see.
Oh,
Yeah, right here. This is the 2000 line. So it just
yeah.
peaked about 2000 barely.
Well, that's with those big inflows. But before the inflows happened, we were down at 1,700, 1,500. Yeah, amazing.
Yep. And so you're right. There was a force majeure that was prevented with all this gold. And now we have another spike similar to the COVID spike where we're up at higher levels. So
they're getting ready for something. All of the gold that the U.S. does have has been pledged to the Federal Reserve and is used to back Federal Reserve notes at 42.22222 on into infinity. 42 and 2/9 dollars. Central banks lease gold, period. This is a fact. And if that gold is all leased and they want to do something with it, they would have to unwind a bunch of those leases. And if they unwind those leases, it causes the price to rise. So this is could be part of what is driving the price. But
exactly.
yeah. So is the government accumulating gold? It wouldn't surprise me because China has been doing it secretly. They report a certain amount, but it is suspected that the actual amount is more than double what they're reporting.
Exactly. And remember the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Right.
So I do think that's happening. All right. Number 3, the United States is executing a new bilateral soft devaluation strategy, a decentralized version of the Plaza Accord. So let's see what that looks like. So back in March, so kind of old at this point, there's been talk about a possible meeting in Mar-a-Lago for a new currency deal, sort of maybe a new monetary system, or at least as a precursor, maybe just some globally cooperative moves to cause the value of different currencies to fluctuate.
Sometime in 84 or early 85, my father had a heart attack and he was hospitalized to have quadruple bypass surgery. And it was just before he was supposed to leave on a trip where everything was paid for. All the airline tickets, the hotels, everything was booked, ready to go. And he was supposed to tour several different countries. And our dollar was so strong that it was very profitable to be an importer. And so he sent me in his place. Now, I was young then and really didn't know what I was doing. But it was interesting. I was in the Netherlands first, and I bought a full-length pigskin suede trench coat, beautiful trench coat that, if you bought it in New York City, would have cost at least $1,000. I bought it for $27. I bought these beautiful ties for like $5 a piece, $3 a piece in the Netherlands. I couldn't believe how inexpensive things were, but there was a mirror image of that for anybody traveling to the United States from abroad. Everything was astronomically expensive. including our exports to other countries. And so this was needed, and sort of countries, it had gotten so that their goods were so cheap that compared to ours, that they wanted things to be devalued, but the dollar to be devalued. So this was a cooperative effort where they sold their currencies and they bought the dollar, and we sold the dollar and bought their currencies. And it's all just, it's a balance sheet accounting gimmick, basically, a trick to adjust this. But what is interesting is that they started 5 months before the Plaza Accord. So actually, they had a game plan, they started executing it, and then they signed the documents. Do you agree?
Yeah, exactly. So we can see this was a sharp upward trajectory in the green line, and then it just turns around and goes the other way. So definitely that's when they started, but then they didn't actually get together and sign the paperwork and make it official until this second line here. So yeah, there was a gap here. So yeah,
Okay.
Definitely a coordinated effort. It's not a conspiracy theory or anything like that. This is known fact. This is historical fact. So this is what happened. However, this isn't really the setup that we're in right now. So you can see that the dollar doubled in 5 years, and the price of gold, by the way, fell by 2/3 because the dollar was so strong. And here's where we are now. The 5 years leading up to today, the dollar has been basically flat. So it hasn't been doubling in power relative to foreign currencies. It's flat. And gold hasn't been selling off by 2/3. It's actually basically tripled. So the setup is not the same, and the incentives are not the same. So even if the US does want to devalue the dollar and try to incentivize onshoring of manufacturing, other countries aren't on board with that. They want to do the same thing for their own countries. So the situation we're in now is basically a race to the bottom, where everyone wants to devalue their own currencies, not right. Necessarily.
And that reason in your list of 5 predictions, the reason said that we're trying to reach a bilateral accord to do this, which the last one was. We were selling our currency and buying other currencies, and the other governments were selling our currency and buying their own currency to make their currencies go up and the U.S. dollar go down. But this isn't going to be a bilateral soft devaluation strategy. And you know what? It's too late. We really should have been using gold and silver as money, as the Constitution mandates for this entire time. We've been the rug has been pulled out from under us. The wool has been pulled over our eyes. We have been tricked. All this sleight of hand, balance sheet, accounting gimmickry is how this is concealed. That it's just a wealth transfer that's going on. So anyway,
exactly. And to your point, any realistic number that they might pick, like the market price to revalue it, it's not even the deficit for 1 year. It's and
right.
And then you're out of options. Then you you can't revalue it again.
People don't understand, a lot of people, the difference between deficit and debt. The debt is the accumulated deficits year after year after year. So if the deficit is going to be $2 trillion, just to not have a deficit and have no change in the national debt, we would have to revalue gold to roughly, if it was $3,300 to gain that $1 trillion, then we'd have to revalue it to $6,600 just to offset. And they're talking about trying to reduce the debt with this, and so they're trapped. There's going to be some horrific event eventually.
You increase the asset of the gold reserve by whatever the difference is in price multiplied by how many ounces you have. And then the central government account would go up by an equal number. Okay, so the math stays the same. And if the central government were to use the proceeds, what would happen is the gold revaluation account would drop by a certain amount, and the central government account would just be credited an equal amount. So that's what would happen there. It's really just a balance sheet trickeration, and then the Treasury would get to spend roughly $1 trillion at today's price of gold. If they do it at a higher rate, they could potentially get more than that.
Yeah, it's a balance sheet trick, and the operative word here is trick, because they've been doing this voodoo scam this is the monetary system. This is the way our monetary system works, is this balance sheet stuff that sort of hides what is actually happening. The actual purchasing power, if they increase the currency supply, is going to come at the expense of inflation. So the purchasing power is stolen from the public and given to the government to spend by doing it. There's a lag time. But also, we did the calculations before, and it required this doesn't even cover the deficit, because we're going to have a deficit of a couple $2 trillion. That revaluation that they were talking about from 42.22 up to, which you may as well, it's close enough to zero to just say zero to $3,300. And that is like finding $1 trillion suddenly. So you find this magic $1 trillion that comes from nowhere. You type these new numbers into existence on your balance sheet by calling gold a higher price. But there's a $2 trillion deficit that year. So it doesn't even cover the deficit. They were talking about reducing the debt. No, it's not going to reduce the debt. So you go from 3,300 to 6,600. Now you got 2 trillion, and that offsets. So if they revalued to 6,600, that'll just offset the budget deficit, which would be the increase in national debt at the end of this year, not next year and the year after. And so you and I calculated this, and I think we came out with something like $142,000 or $147,000 an ounce to wipe out the national debt. And that would upset the entire global economy. Plus, if you try and pay down the debt and pay it off, you're destroying. So this currency would come into existence, and then you're destroying the dollars, the principal that goes to pay back the treasury bonds. And so, I don't know if this would be hugely deflationary, inflationary, but what it will create, I can guarantee, is a roller coaster that will hit everybody. It'll just blindside everybody. Nobody will be able to predict what's going on. And it's all a bad idea.
But it seems unlikely. They would have to take the price of gold to 140,000, 150,000 an ounce to pay off the national debt. That's so laughable, we shouldn't even consider it. It's just ridiculous.
Or get us into CBDC, where they've got complete control over everything and there is no escape, and then try and make payments in gold illegal, or allow gold to go to any price. But once they've got us trapped in a CBDC, they can inflate, and they can steal half your wealth every month. Or more,
Yeah.
So
don't fall for it. So the first couple predictions here seem plausible to me. The last ones seem unlikely. So that's kind of my take. Any last words, Mike, before we do our meme of the day?
I think this number 3 is inevitable, except you've got to change the word bilateral to unilateral. It's going to be the other countries aren't going to help us devalue the dollar. The U.S. is going to try to devalue the dollar, and if they don't have the help from other countries, then the only way to do that is tight.